Thank you, everyone, for bringing on Bridges Live. This is Dr. Paul and Dr. Only. We are here on Mental Health Mondays, and I think I love that sound. I think I'm going to keep it, and we're about ready to go live on YouTube. If anyone has any questions, you can always reach us on drpaulholisticscience.com, or you can always reach me at drpaulwdyer@gmail.com. Before we get started, Dr. Only, welcome. And I know it looks like we are popped over. Yay! So now that we're back and we're live, tell everybody how your week's been. Since last week, we talked over some different skills and skill sets. But how's your week been?
My week has been really good. I've been able to kind of get a lot of big accomplishments happen in the last week. I became a U.S. citizen, which is huge.
Look at you!
I know!
Look at
a U.S. citizen. And some other great things happened, and I was able to spend some quality time with people that I care about, so it's been really, really good. No complaints here.
So, the benefits of being a citizen, and so were you, in this DACA thing, were you wrapped up in that also in some previous? Not at all, right?
Not at all, yeah.
Yeah. So, recently, I have 9 kids. And without giving my kids' names on the air, mental health has always been a part of our family for one reason or another. Either be my own mental health, my daughter's mental health, my son's mental health, my mental health, because some of us fall into that depression of not feeling like I can get through this. Some of those triggers, knowing that it's a trigger and then raising your hand. One thing I think my kids have always known is that they can raise their hand and say, I need help. And we've talked about that before, getting that mental tune-up and checking yourself to make sure that there are some things like journaling. We talked about that last week about journaling. Now, let's talk about when you find a friend or a partner, what are some of the tips of talking them off the ledge, metaphorically, before they commit suicide? Because suicide is going up and it's not being talked about. And what is some of the things that is good to say to your friend, partner, whoever that you know that's going to commit suicide? Or wants to commit suicide, or thinking about committing suicide?
So, the first thing I would advise is kind of what not to say.
Right.
But never say I know how you feel or I understand what's going on, because you don't. And a recognition of the individual.
Before you move on, why do you think that is? I mean, I understand, but let's take out some of that weeds in there. Like, well, why is that not a good thing to say?
Absolutely. So with that, when you say that, there is a misconception that you could ever understand what another individual's unique experience is. It could be that you two have experienced the exact same thing. However, they still have their own experience and processing of that event that's going to be different than yours. And so in that moment, it's important to take the time and the energy to try and understand or give them room to have their own experience. When someone says, oh, I know what you're going through, there's a minimization of that other person's unique experience. Because at the end of the day, no one ever knows everything that you're going through, because everyone has a different history, yes. Everyone has a different interpretation of that history, and then everyone has a different motivational system as far as what's motivating that behavior of wanting to commit suicide in this particular moment at this time.
Prior to that statement, it seems like that statement works well in other times except suicide, or should it not ever be said?
So I caution against ever saying it.
Me too. I don't understand why people say it. I'm like, how do you know? Whoa. It's almost like, but when I hear people say like, oh, I've talked to my girlfriend and I know what she was going through. I talked to my buddy, my homeboy, and I was like, man, I've been there before. Well, why are you minimizing my pain? Like
exactly.
So, but it's said so often that when that time is at that breaking point, they say it so easily, and I think that pushes them over.
Yeah, and I think it's also important as to think about why it's said. Because in the moment, the person saying it wants the other person to feel connected to someone.
Right.
They want them to feel like they're not alone.
Right.
They want them to feel like someone is in their corner. They also want to give them hope that, oh, I've been through this and I was able to overcome it, or I was able to move past it, and so have hope that there is someone here who has a similar experience that is still here. And none of those things are bad. And so the motivation behind the statement, and because it's so common and familiar as well, that people often grab that statement when they don't have anything else to say. None of those things, again, are necessarily bad, but it does have this impact. And I often say intent doesn't equal impact.
Right. Where
the intention behind it may be good, but the impact of it often is not. Where it could be what pushes someone over the edge, because their interpretation of it is, oh, I'm weak. This person went through it and they're fine. I'm going through it and so I'm definitely not even going to try and move through it. So again, the intent doesn't always equal the impact, but that's not to say that the person saying it has a bad intention.
Now, there's people out there, and I'm not an A. They call them A types, B types, and all this other, and people have done these crazy little things. Like I'm atypical type person, and I'm not. I'm very creative and very elusive, but there are certain people who just want to fix things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a problem. I got an answer. I'm having a problem. I can fix it. Whoa, how about just listening to me? How about just chill out and no, but what do you need? What do you need? So, but those people are caring, and now we're telling them, just slow your roll. Just let's listen first before you get into fix. Because men have that problem. Men has been known historically to be like, honey, I'm not listening to you, but I'll fix you. You know what I mean? So what's a way for a person who knows that they are that way to not jump into the fix?
So this is one of those things where it is going to take practice and it is going to take intention, where you might start to try and fix, and then once it's called out, or once you realize you're fixing it, there might be a need to pause and stop yourself and then take a step back. A lot of these individuals, I have a very good friend who says, I just am not convinced about the validity of emotions and the need for emotion.
Really?
So I just fix. Yes. And I'm I respect that because it has worked. But at the same time, there is a benefit to sitting in an emotion with someone.
Mm-hmm.
But because you can't really see the benefit, and it doesn't always seem to have an effect, because sometimes the person goes even lower, and you're sitting with them, and then you have a sense of, what am I doing here? Or this is a waste of time, because I know what to do to fix this. So again, I think it does have to do with different personality styles and different life experiences, where there are some people where just fixing it has worked for them, and fixing other people has worked for the other person. But then you reach this one person where it just doesn't seem to be effective, and then the idea of sitting in the emotion and understanding the benefit of it is a new skill that needs to be developed. But it does take intention. You're probably not going to be able to do it every time, but once you realize you're doing it, taking a step back, taking a deep breath, and sitting with it is going to be helpful.
What I don't want is the simplest answer is, well, I just won't tell anyone anything ever again. Because you get that pushback, fine, I'll just keep my mouth shut. No. I'm going to say no. We need connections. We are built on connections. We are built on love. And if things are done out of love, not out of... What's the word I'm looking for? If it's not... doing things out of love, you're able to adjust. I think if you do things out of feeling of responsibility, I think it could turn badly, or guilt, or shame, or some sense like you feel like I'm the big brother, big sister, I'm the dad, I'm the mom, I am this, so I should be able to do this. I think if you are coming at your helpful service that way, I'm not sure if it's going to turn out well.
I would agree. I would also say, though, that For some people, the way that they express love is through acts of service. And so the way that they're showing you that they love you is by trying to do and trying to fix. And so because that's how they experience love, that's also how they give love. And I'm often find myself telling any relationship, whether it's a friendship or an intimate relationship, it's important to understand and love the person the way that they experience love, as well as expressing it the way that you know how, but taking the time to understand how they experience love and showing love in that way is going to be really helpful, because it's not always, sometimes it is out of responsibility and obligation, and I agree that that doesn't go well. But sometimes it is a genuine love. However, your love style is just not what the situation is calling for at the moment.
And I think it's okay to ask. I think it's actually okay to say, how do you want me to love you?
Absolutely.
And it doesn't seem, it's one of those, I think these are these things, and I love Mental Health Mondays, because I think these education pieces, like, I never thought of saying to someone, my sister who I've known forever, like, how do you want me to love you? And let her look at you, or let him, or whoever, like, what do you mean? You know me. I'm like, yeah, but how do you want, like, have them answer that. Because that allows them to be like, I never thought of it, but I would like for you to love me this way. You know what I mean? And say, do I do that? Well, not all the time, because now you're going to get some answers, and maybe some things you didn't know. Like, there was a time, I didn't think that, but I know that's your way, but it didn't help me. So I think that's a great way of asking those questions. Yeah,
definitely asking them how, and making it a regular practice isn't a bad thing either. Of how can I even love you more? But I think that it also takes awareness on the other person's part of how they experience love, because a lot of times people are aware of what they like, but they aren't fully aware of what happens to make them feel loved. Like, I had a recent friend who said, it seems like this is your love language, where I thought it was another. And I was like, as I think about it, you're actually right. Like, I do experience love more like that. But it also takes a matter of taking that time to self-reflect. When you're asked that question, a simple answer of, I don't know, you figure it out, isn't always helpful.
No.
But being able to articulate what it is to the other individual can really strengthen the relationship. And I'm really glad you made the comment on connection, because even as we're talking about the suicide piece and the benefit of sitting in an emotion with someone, there's a connection that's formed in those moments that surpasses words. So being in that silence with someone as they're experiencing something like that is a type of emotional connection that, again, you can't really verbalize, but it's very real, and it can literally save someone's life.
And I think, I believe, I have faith. And so what is your take on faith, belief, and trust? Those three. Faith, belief, and trust.
Mm-hmm. So,
go ahead. No.
So, for me, I think the easiest one is a belief. So for me, a belief is nothing more than a thought that you've thought over and over again. A belief can always be changed. A belief is not necessarily based in truth or reality, but it is a thought that you've thought over and over again, and now it has turned into a belief.
I agree.
So with the belief, if you find that you believe something that isn't necessarily helping you at this point of life, you can always change your belief and do the work to change that belief and turn it into a more helpful one. When it comes to faith and trust, I think those two words can be used interchangeably. I think, well, maybe not interchangeably, but I think faith is extraordinary trust. Faith is a complete trusting, where trust can have its different levels. You can trust someone to a certain extent. Like, I trust you professionally, but maybe personally I'm not necessarily trusting of you. But there is different levels of trust, but when it's faith, there's this kind of all-giving trust that doesn't necessarily need substance.
All-encompassing.
All-encompassing, thank you. All-encompassing trust, yes.
So when we are in the suicide prevention time, what is the thing that you think we should recall? Who's helping the other? Should it be in our faith? Or should we be in that trust? Because the person that is on that brink is very sensitive to what you are at that moment. If you're afraid, you're going to lose them.
Definitely.
If you are, and if you're afraid, say I'm scared for you. That's different than I am scared. You know, but if you are frightened, they're going to end up calming you. You're going to feel better, and they're going to commit suicide later.
I can hear that.
You know,
I think.
Go ahead.
I think when it comes to situations like suicide, in those moments, it's definitely important to have faith in your ability to be present with the person.
Yeah.
And in that person's ability to make a choice that that allows them to continue to keep living. Whether that choice is going to the hospital or going to see a loved one or whatever, but I definitely think faith in yourself and your ability to tolerate this situation, and then faith in the other person is necessary. Because it can't just all be about them, because they're using you as a source in that moment. So there needs to be a piece that you are able to recall in that moment as well.
You know, when we develop these connections, and you know, when we study behavior science and neuroscience and mental health, this is something that you've learned to study and you have passion for. But the common person just wants to love other people and how they love. But yet, there's a lot of education in learning how to be connected to other people. There is, you know, is it innate? Is it natural? It can be, but see, if you allow it to only be natural nature and environmental, then you're basing everything you're doing off of your previous environment that raised you. And what if you were raised by wolves? Your sensitivity may not be all that good.
I hear you. I think part of it is natural and part of it is nurture. But one good gauge I always tell individuals to think about is their relationship with themselves, because you are always with you. So when you're thinking about a connection, when you're thinking about relationships, kind of explore that relationship with yourself. Even if we go to the Bible, the scripture is love others as you love yourself. You got to love yourself first, and before you can love others. And I think a lot of people skip that step where they try to love themselves through loving others, and that doesn't work. You got to learn to love yourself, and in so doing, you learn how to love others.
You know, that's a great point. Thinking about this, is it, you know, of course, everything's possible. It's like a legal thing. You can actually hurt yourself because you love yourself through others.
Absolutely.
The damage that you are creating to you, not to the other, but to you, you get lost. You will have no sense of ever having self, and now, by the time you turn around, you may have a very distant memory of what you thought you could have been.
Definitely. Absolutely. And I think that that's the story that I hear from a lot of single moms and a lot of people that are in codependent relationships, or a lot of people that haven't had the time to develop their sense of self and have learned, either modeled or by society, to love themselves through loving others. So Lisa Nichols often says, "Love from your excess, or give from your excess, not your essence." So when you think about the cup and the idea of the cup running over, she always says, "Give from your saucer, not from your cup." There's a certain amount that is for you, a certain amount of love, nurturing, patience, understanding, compassion that is for you, and it's important for you to nurture, develop, and keep in order for you to be whole. And then when that cup runs over, then you start to give that, and from that place give. And if you find that the excess is no longer there, then you continue to replenish your essence before you start to give again. But if you don't do that nurturing of your essence and yourself, then how could you not lose yourself?
It's almost like you have to.
Absolutely, because when you show up whole, then you can actually help the person that's next to you, and you're not losing anything from yourself. But when you're not whole, then you're not really being fully present to that other person because you're not able to. And so the idea of loving others and somehow that's going to replenish you it sounds good in theory, and I think society has really reinforced that for certain populations. But in reality, that never works.
Because if you go back to single moms, when do they have time to replenish themselves? When they're having small kids and they put them down and they have to get up in the morning, is it the 20 minutes they have on the toilet? I don't think that's working.
Right, absolutely. And that is when being intentional, and mind you, there are certain times where you don't have the social supports to watch the kids for you a little bit while you go and do something for yourself. But in the times where you are able to, or even just creating something maybe virtually where you're sending yourself affirmations, or you have something that you're saying or doing for yourself that is like even mindfulness, where you can be doing the dishes and be mindful. So you're still accomplishing what you need to accomplish, but also replenishing yourself as you're accomplishing these mundane tasks. Those are the types of things that can be interwoven for when you really just don't have time. You can overlay that with some of the mundane tasks that you have to do anyway.
I believe, really truly believe, that doing something for yourself does not include playing a game on a computer. Mm-hmm. It does not include watching your favorite TV show. Yeah. And the reason for this is because electronically you're still disengaging from reconnecting to your internal self. Exactly. And the game you play, it could be, I don't play, but Candy Crush. It could be that is not helping you connect. I understand it's relaxing you. I understand it's giving you a sense of disappearing. Mm-hmm. But those small steps, I think, is still disengaging you from your personal battery charge.
Absolutely.
And so I when people say just take the time and do something that you enjoy, electronically, I don't believe that's part of it. You can lay down on your bed. I think that's better, or lay down on the floor and look at the ceiling is better than playing one of those electronic games, because you the way the mind works, the way the neural works, you're still engaging the firing mechanisms, and it's creating these disenchanted synapses that it isn't you. But if you just quiet yourself and then goes back into maybe a breathing technique or journaling, things we talked about last week, you're reconnecting to yourself. That's completely different.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about is what I call kind of a value-based self-care, mm-hmm. where the first step to self-care is to identify what self you want to develop, what self you want to show up as. So, for example, I love binging TV, which is not helpful. I don't feel replenished after that. But as I thought about, well, what is it that I want to show up as? I wanted to really develop my connection to my spiritual self. And so what I binge on now are Michael Beckwith videos or Lisa Nichols videos, where I am getting my spiritual life and that dynamic nurtured, but I'm also engaging in a behavior that I like, which is binging on things. And so I do think that with some intention, you can still do what you love, just be more intentional with it. For someone who likes gaming, it might be, instead of doing Candy Crush, you go into doing Words with Friends, where you're developing your vocabulary, if that's something that's important to you. So and even with the person who may not just have time to do anything, as they're doing like the dishes, focusing on your breathing reconnects you with yourself. And you can do that as you're getting your work done. So again, being intentional with your self-care, knowing what you want to get out of it, and then thinking about things that you truly enjoy and connecting that with your goals of the self you want to be, I think is really a helpful way to look at self-care and to approach self-care. So you can be replenished but still engage in the activities you enjoy. We talked about some things you shouldn't say, do not say. What are the things that it's helpful to say? For the suicide, going back to the suicide piece. In the moment, asking them, how can I support you right now? What is it that you need right now? And if they don't know, just ask them the question, can we sit together right now? Can I be present with you right now? Is there someone that I can call for you right now? Are you willing to go to the hospital, and being willing to take them or to engage with them so that they can be with professionals that can be able to at least do a 48-hour hold and work with them in that time. But being really present focused, making sure that you're asking them what they need and asking them how you can support them. And then if you have some ideas, making sure that you're making it a collaborative process where you're talking with them about what they need is going to be really important.
And when you say be present, I mean be present. That means don't check the watch. Like, how can I help you?
Right. Don't check the watch. Don't check the phone. If you get a phone call coming in, unless you have a really important phone call you're waiting on, please just let that phone call go to voicemail. Because once your eye disconnects, that can be nobody cares about me.
Yeah. Because you're not going to get it back. You're not going to get it back. It's not going to be, hold on for a second. I apologize for that. My bag. I don't care what you say. After that, you have lost your friend, your loved one, the person you're with, whoever that might be. You've lost them, and you've lost him. And this is not a guilt trip. This is a fact. And so I don't know how else to. It kind of goes back to what you said. You need sometimes when someone's in that situation, how can you be loved? How can, ask yourself, how can I love you right now?
Exactly.
Right, because you would want someone to love you right now. Mm-hmm. And those things are important. And if you don't know, asking is even better because we can figure this out together right now. Right now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And being present also means watching their facial expression, watching their mood, watching if they are hunched over, watching if something you say lights them up in some way. And then also asking questions like, how would your loved ones feel right now? Or is there someone that would be really hurt if you weren't here? Those types of questions can sometimes remind people of the reasons why they want to live.
We feel so very disconnected, and I'm glad we were able to talk today about mental health. We talked Mental Health Monday, but suicide in itself, because it is something that is not talked about. It is something that people tend to go to, and you wonder, does everyone think of suicide? I wrote an article, and I actually believe they do. And how I believe they think of it is that they don't think of living. Suicide, people look at it as something as in death. But if you don't actually focus on living, then your thoughts are on death. Because there is, life is something you push forward to. Death is something that's coming no matter what. So, and if you don't think about living your best life or a life or any life, then death is something you are pondering. You just don't say it, but it to me, I think that you are saying it. And that's why, learning how to live takes practice, takes work, takes effort, takes challenging, takes all these things to be alive. Yeah.
Definitely. And it does, like you said, come in different packages because there are also just thoughts of not being here anymore. Mm-hmm. Where you might not be thinking, I want to kill myself, but you think, I don't want to be here anymore. And a lot of times the thoughts of death isn't necessarily because they want a death experience as much as it is they want the pain and the stress to stop. Mm-hmm. And so understanding those nuances and being able to meet someone where they are with those nuances is also going to be important as you support someone who may be having suicidal thoughts. I do think that everyone has some level of those types of thoughts when they're in distress. It's a lot more common than people know because we don't talk about it, and there's a lot of shame around it. So once people start being more vocal just about some of the thoughts that they've had, especially when something challenging is going on, then we can start to see that, hey, this is a lot more normal than we think it is, and we can do something to support each other through it.
Every Monday, 7:30, please join us. If you have any questions for us, please contact me at drpaulholisticscience.com or drpaulwdyer at gmail.com. If you have any questions or things you want to talk about, things you went over that you want us to go over again, please contact us. Put us in the comments and the links on the YouTube links. Or if you share this with your friends and your family and you want to talk about, but these are conversations I hope that you get to talk about this with loved ones, friends, and family, and strangers. Sometimes, I talk with, because that's me, but having great conversations gives you insight of maybe things you've never thought about. Anything you want to say before we take off, Dr. Only?
Definitely. Just that, again, suicide is a really important thing. Allow space for it to come from wherever it's coming from. And then also, if you're having thoughts of suicide, there are a lot of suicide hotlines that you can call that are 24 hours. So you're never alone in this kind of mental health field, or you're never alone in this experience. Make sure you reach out. People are here that want to support you and help you through it.
Thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you. We'll see everybody next week, 7:30, Mental Health Mondays, and we're going to pray on our way out. So please bow your heads. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for bringing us together. And let our words be heard for those who are in pain or in suffering, those who need an answer. Let us call upon you, and let us reach out to this professional so we can help you live your best life. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Dr. Oni, you have a great night. Get some food in you, and you... Wait a minute. Before we take off, what shows are you binging now?
Say that again?
What shows are you binging right now?
So I'm actually not binging any shows. I have been watching a lot of Michael Beckworth videos. I'm doing a Mind Valley quest where I'm doing a life visioning Mind Valley quest. So there's a lot of videos and things with that.
Okay. Thanks, dear. Have a good night.
You too.